I want to begin by congratulating you. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You've made it. You're here. You've arrived at your destination. Welcome to the land of more. More and more of us are living in the land of more. More and more of us are experiencing an unprecedented amount of more than ever before. Never before have we had so much more. Ours is a multiple-choice society in which we get to enjoy so much more of everything. So let's take a closer look. For instance, we have more freedoms, more civil rights, and more democracies. It was in the 1990s, for the first time in the history of this planet, that more of us were governed by a democracy than a dictatorship. Sociologists have noted that some democracies are a little bit more democratic than other democracies. So this is clearly a work in progress. We have more schools, more colleges, more universities, and more chances to enroll in higher education. We have a more varied career path than ever before. Gone is the era of one life, one job, or even a job for life. We have added more years to our lifespan, so much so that many of us get to have 2 or 3 lifetimes for the price of one these days. Anybody here on their 3rd lifetime already, perhaps? Yeah, maybe even their 4th. I mean, it happens. We have more money floating around on the planet than ever before. We came off the gold standard. That's what made that possible. We also have more purchasing power than ever before, thanks largely to credit cards and a debt economy. We have more shopping outlets than ever. So many shoes, so little time. We have these huge shopping villages where you can save money if you spend everything that you've got. It's an extraordinary thing. We have more travel destinations, we have more adventures, we have more journeys to take. And there's certainly more shopping to do and more experiences to have. The art of simultaneous consumption in the land of more is a very necessary skill. We have bargains and sales. We have stuff and a great need for storage. Fortunately, storage is a booming business. You would do well to invest in storage, it would seem. I should also add that more of us have greater expectations than ever before. More of us want to live an above-average life, and more of us are actually feeling dissatisfied. We have more TV channels. I remember in the olden days, my daughter Beau once asked me, "Dad, were you alive in the olden days?" And I said no, and then I realized I was. But in my olden days, we had 3 channels, TV channels, and then another one came along. And we all knew it wouldn't work. There was no need for a 4th channel. And the reception wasn't any good anyway, if you remember. And it only went on from about 6 at night till 8, and then we ran out of ideas. We didn't know what else to put on it. But anyway, today we have more TV channels, an average of over 500 channels, and we've got nothing to watch, quite curiously. We've got more and more beauty products, and we're feeling less and less beautiful. And we have more choices of tea than ever before, and we are still thirsty for something. So let's talk about tea. Once upon a time, there was just tea. And it was very straightforward. Essentially, what would happen is a friend of yours would come round, they'd knock on the door, you'd open the door, you'd let them in, they'd say hello, you'd say hello, and then they'd say something like, shall I take my shoes off? And we'd say, no, you're fine. And then they'd say, you're sure? And we'd go, yeah, you better take your shoes off. And then we'd look at their shoes and we'd say, that's a nice pair of shoes. We'd say, thank you, I got them in a sale. Oh, yeah, they were 50% off with the other 3 pairs of shoes I had to buy. Great. So then we'd walk through maybe to the living room or possibly to the kitchen. And then you would ask your friend, would you like a cup of tea? And they would say yes or no. That's it. It's very straightforward. All the way until recently. Fast forward to today, and when you ask your friend, would you like a cup of tea? They say, ooh, what have you got? It's changed. In the beginning, there was basically 2 choices. You had Assam tea, a malty, bold, strong caramel-coloured tea, fully oxidized, good for the morning, good for getting you going. A gorgeous, gorgeous thing, one of my favorites. And this tea is a beautiful thing, and hard to live without, it has to be said. And then, you see, we had this other tea, Darjeeling. Now, Darjeeling was more floral, delicate, fruity, a muscatel scent, the leaves slightly greener, often described as the champagne of teas. It was a tea that you often have without milk, and it was a tea for the afternoon. There were some other teas that we were aware of, particularly Earl Grey. Earl Grey was for posh people, or people who wanted to be posh. It was mostly an oolong tea, and you just added some oil of bergamot to it, and that's essentially what made it into Earl Grey. Earl Grey, or the Earl Grey mixture, it's thought was named after Charles Grey, the second Earl Grey, who was the British Prime Minister in the 1830s and was also the author of the Reform Bill in 1832. And then there was Lady Grey tea. Do you remember that one? Lady Grey tea. This is with those little bits of orange and lemon in them. This was actually named after Mary Elizabeth Grey, who was the wife of Charles Grey. She was the only daughter of William Ponsonby, who was the first Baron Ponsonby of Inverkilly. If you're making notes, I just want you to know that. We were aware of 1 or 2 other teas floating around, like orange pekoe and lapsang souchong and oolong teas and yun teas. But fundamentally, we were managing our choices, we were in control, and life was okay. Until, that is, with the arrival of herbal teas. Herbal teas that smell nice but don't taste of anything, if you've noticed. In the US, they don't say herbal teas, they say herbal teas. It's a bit strange. Imagine if we did that to other words. Humor would be humor, which isn't very funny. Help would be help. I need some help, please. Thank you so much for helping me today. It's a little bit strange. Healing would be Ealing, which is a place in London. Happiness would be happiness, which sounds like a Frenchman's appendage, if you say it fast enough. Anyway, the whole point is that suddenly, out of nowhere and everywhere, arrived these herbal teas. And I think it really started with chamomile, ginger, fennel, hibiscus, mint, nettle, rosehip, that sort of thing. Rosehip. Rosehip was one of the ones, I just couldn't do that. That was like red fruity cardboard. I don't know what it was. And I was always keen to make sure that the bit of paper, the tag, didn't get into the tea, because it would make it taste even more papery. Anyway, after that came the combos. Lemon and ginger, apple and cinnamon, black currant and vanilla, cranberry and almond, pear and pistachio, licorice and mint, lime and creme brulee. And after that, if you remember, was the medicinal teas. And then there was ginseng and raspberry leaf and echinacea and bilberry. And then there were teas for the liver, and teas for the kidneys, and teas for the colon, and teas for the pancreas, somewhere around here. How clever these teas were that they seemed to know where to go. Absolutely remarkable. Teas for the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Extraordinary. Teas for insomnia and stress, and fatigue and allergies and anxiety. Anxiety because we've got so many choices of tea. So you needed something to calm your tension. And then we had the spiritual teas. In came the spiritual teas like yogi teas and Zen teas and Kundalini teas and celestial seasoning and heavenly teas and Kuan Yin teas and holy basil and Rishi teas, chakra teas, Socrates. A little bit of a... It's my only joke. Okay, that was just a joke. And then after that, we had the sort of more eco-friendly teas. You know, and we had, eco teas and what else? The root teas. Rooibos. Rooibos. What even is it? Hard to like first time, I will say. But seriously, what is rooibos? Is it a leaf? Is it a flower? Is it a root? Is it even edible, I wonder? But if you drink it enough, it starts to work on you. So I'm told. And then we had other teas like the organic teas and the biodynamic teas and the earth-friendly teas where the vapor would come off the teacup and heal the ozone layers up above. And we had the ergonomically friendly tea bags, round tea bags and pyramid tea bags, all to help you stir the tea and to avoid repetitive strain injury. Because of so much tea that needed to be drunk and all of the choices that exist. Then there were the flower teas started to happen, lavender and elderflower and jasmine, some of my favorites, I have to say. And then after that, the colored teas. We had green tea, we sort of pretty much knew about that, but all of a sudden, there was now white swirling mist pomegranate tea, blue mountain thunder tea, red tea, silver jasmine needles, chicken, avocado, bacon in a sourdough. No, that's a sandwich. Basically put, the whole point is that all of these teas arrived. And rather interestingly, even though we have more tea that is available than ever before, strangely enough, we're still not satisfied. We're still not happy. And we're still wondering, what's more? There must be something more to life than all of this. So, I'm the creator of a happiness project. And I've been running the happiness project since 1992, in the olden days. And I pretty much get a piece of research land on my desk every day telling me something about happiness, telling me something about this land of more that we are now all living in. And let me give you a couple of pieces of research that I think are very interesting and worth taking note of. The first piece of research has to do with static happiness. Researchers have noticed that in the last 50 years, our levels of happiness have remained mostly static. For instance, in the US, when people were asked in the 1950s, I think it was, 1960s, how happy are you? Please score from 1 to 10. 1 is not at all, 10 is very happy. The average answer was 7.5 out of 10. More recently, when a similar number of people have been asked, how happy are you? The average answer is 7.4 out of 10. So we are experiencing static happiness, even though we have much more than ever before. Another set of researchers have highlighted a phenomenon called semi-happy. It appears that many of us really are just semi-happy. Now, in the UK, it was in 1957, several hundred people were asked, how happy are you? Not happy, quite happy, happy, very happy. 52% of people said they're very happy. So that's just about 1 in 2 people saying they're very happy. More recently, 37% of people say that they are very happy. So something's afoot here. We're experiencing static happiness, and at the same time, we seem to be semi-happy, even though we seem to have so much more than ever before. In the land of more, I think one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves is, what do I want? Just that. What do I want? When you know what you want, you stop wanting more of everything else. A lady called Anne Valley Fox said, you can never have enough of what you didn't want in the first place. When you know what you want, I think that's the key to happiness. Happiness is knowing what you want. Success is knowing what you want. Freedom is somehow knowing what you want. So every now and then, I think a great thing to do is to be able to stop and just to consider that question, what do I want? Now, at first glance, it looks like what do I want is inviting you to think about what do I want to have, what do I want to buy, and what do I want to get. But with second sight, if we look again, I think we'll see that what do I want can be a much more interesting question than that. For instance, we can take a look at what do I want and broaden it out a little bit, expand the edges of that question, and consider, for instance, something like, what do I want to be? What sort of a person would I like to be in this world? How can I be more authentic? How can I be more of the real me and not a conditioned me? A conditioned me which, because of our culture of more, means that I end up defining myself as a consumer instead of as a truly spiritual being. Maybe when I look at this question, what do I want, I can also consider what is it that I would most like to connect to. Maybe I could connect somehow more to my own heart and also to the hearts of others. After all, I think it's fair to say that psychologists and mystics and sociologists and environmentalists will all agree that really the great cause of lack and scarcity on our planet is our perceived separation from one another. So to connect with our own heart, to connect with the hearts of others, to connect with the heart of this earth, that maybe is what we would like to experience more of. Or maybe it's even more than that. Maybe we can look at what do I want and think about how I could recognize my true nature more fully and more obviously. Thoreau said that the soul grows through subtraction, not addition. It's often when we take things away that we actually get an experience of our true self. You know, it's wonderful to accumulate from time to time, but I've also noticed that decluttering is a wonderful experience. And I've often wondered about that. Why is decluttering such a wonderful experience? And I think the sense is that it helps me, if you like, to get back to what I really, really want. Every now and then, I like to pour myself a cup of tea, sit down, and think about this. What's it like to be me when I don't want anything? I find this to be a very, very interesting meditation. The first time I tried it, I have to be honest, I felt rather disorientated. But just to give it a moment or two, to be able to, as the great poet Rumi said, rest from wanting. To take a moment to rest from wanting, it can be a great, great revelation. To be able just to rest from wanting and to experience yourself without wanting anything has, for me, been truly a great revelation. I've noticed that when I am me without wanting anything, I find that I'm often more open, more receptive, more grateful, and ultimately I feel more abundant. When I rest from wanting anything, I find myself back in the oneness, back in the garden, the original garden. And when I'm in the garden, that's when I notice truly that everything that I truly need is already here. It's a beautiful revelation. So my invitation to you is to make yourself a cup of tea, to sit down and ask yourself, what is it like to be me when I don't want anything? And I think you'll make a beautiful discovery. And the beautiful discovery is that inside you is everything that you truly want. You are everything that you truly want. And if you ever think that something might be missing in your life, it's probably just more of the real you. Thank you very much. Thank you.